I spent a period as a commercial diver working on the oil rigs, including mining diamonds on the ocean floor. And I had to make decisions underwater that I relied upon my training. And then eventually I relied upon my experience. And those decisions could impact my life or the life of my team. We see a situation that has just recently evolved involving a container ship hitting a bridge in Baltimore, in Maryland. And there were so many decisions that were made, some good, some bad. But the act is that decisions were made that had consequences. And our life is a combination of how we respond to the different decisions. As a sailor, I was out on the high seas racing from Plymouth, England to Newport, Rhode Island in thick fog. I chose to be out there. And in that thick fog, I got hit by a Russian freighter mid-ocean that resulted in a huge hole in my boat. I had a choice to abandon my boat, climb onto the freighter, or I had a choice to fit a pump and spend 15 minutes every hour pumping to keep the boat afloat and to stay racing. I had to make the right decision at the right moment based on the information that I had that would have an impact on my survivability. Now, what happened on board that container ship? Someone made a decision that resulted in a loss of propulsion, and that had a consequence on the bridge where there were two pilots who suddenly had to respond to no power. And they called Mayday. They called for help because they realized they were not going to get propulsion taking place. They knew they were grabbed by the currents and they're going to be pushed into a danger zone, which happened to be this bridge. And so when those decisions were made on the bridge to call for help, to put out Mayday, there wasn't anybody who could respond immediately because it's a big ship. They need tugs. There are no tugs immediately around. But that decision made on the bridge was heard by various workers who happened to be on the bridge, who knew the implications. And so they untethered themselves and they ran screaming to cars, stop, stop, don't come, there's danger. And very quickly, there were vehicles that did not enter the bridge. That ship hit the bridge, we saw the explosion and the implications of what happened. Yes, there were 6 lives lost. Sadly, we don't know how. They have not recovered the bodies yet. But there are 6 lives that will not go home. What decisions were they given? What decisions were thrust upon them? What decisions did they make that resulted in their loss of life? We may never know that, but we live the consequence. But think of the lives that were saved because a chain of command, decisions were made, and action happened. Think of how many lives could have been on that bridge at the time of impact and explosion. But now let's think about the decisions that follow. What are the consequences? When I chose to pump and I chose to keep racing, I had to know that I was not going to endanger other lives. That was my decision. Whilst there were people who were making decisions why I should abandon my boat and climb onto the freighter, there are always those who are going to second guess. But right now we have the federal government making decisions. How do they support the state of Maryland? And the state of Maryland is making decisions. How do they support the city of Baltimore? There is a wonderful chain of command. And I've seen this chain of command work because some years ago, I worked with readiness of government, where we prepared, where every state prepares for any types of disasters. And do they have the communications? Do they have the first responders? Do they have the process to make a critical decision? And so we are watching now decisions play out, where the federal government and Biden says we will do everything to open up that bridge. And now the implementation will filter down to all the nuts and bolts of how will they restore transportation? How will they fix the economic impact? Each day we get to make critical decisions. Let's hope that we can keep navigating and steering into the appropriate currents so there are no loss of life and the challenges that some families may be encountering. Let's always make good decisions based on our experience, based on our knowledge, and based on the team who supports each other. And together, we end up finding solutions.